I don't do drugs. Put you on drugs. What am I for? You know what I'm saying? It's trying to be, but I'm really a what? But I'm really a what? I'm really a what? Right now. I'm people right now. You know what I'm saying?
Deep in the dead of night in an empty patch of woods outside San Antonio, people with nowhere to live are trying to get some sleep after a long, draining day. Then, a tiny red light appears overhead and points straight down at the place where they're lying, along with the soft buzz of a machine in the air. You know, this is what thousands of unhoused people here are dealing with right now in 2026. They're being tracked down by drones fitted with advanced thermal sensors. It sounds a little unsettling, doesn't it? But behind the plain numbers, an invisible emergency is slowly burning. And here is the harsh reality on the ground. San Antonio is facing a serious homelessness crisis, and it is growing faster than the system can keep up. The official point-in-time count has reached 3,625 people, with more than 1,100 of them sleeping outside and living in the weather day and night.
No, we can't get blankets because of city rules and politics. The government doesn't care. The people of the city are awesome. The people of the city are awesome.
These are families and even more heartbreaking children forced to turn an old beat-up car into a home in blistering heat above 40 degrees Celsius, 104 degrees Fahrenheit. At the same time, city leaders are taking tough measures using advanced technology to crack down, while also moving ahead with plans to remove thousands of remaining public housing units. What do you think? It all feels contradictory, and in some ways painful, doesn't it?
Well, it makes me feel like an animal, actually, when they put that decriminalizing. All that means is they just want to put you in jail. Mm-hmm. And what does that say? It criminalizes you, actually.
Mm-hmm. In the center of Milan Park in San Antonio, people light as many as 270 small flickering candles. Each one stands for a name, a real person who died that year simply because they had no place to call home. Honestly, I do not think this problem is simple at all. It touches so many people, from veterans to families to older adults. And today I want to take a closer look with you at the current situation in San Antonio, from real data to the stories and events getting public attention. What do you think? Ready to hear the whole story? Let's look into it together, because by the end, maybe we will understand it a little more clearly, right? By early 2026, enforcement crews are moving through multiple encampments along major routes like Loop 410, carrying out fast, coordinated sweeps, making arrests tied to active warrants, flagging drug activity, and clearing camps within hours.
Meth is like water out here. It's you can get it faster than any other drug. You can get a lot of it, and you can keep getting a lot of it. Everybody has it. Everybody does it. It's the real pandemic.
This is not random. It is targeted, intentional, and timed. But before you look at the officers on the ground, you have to understand the raw numbers fueling this pressure. According to Close to Home's official 2025 point-in-time count, San Antonio and Bexar County recorded 3,625 people experiencing homelessness on a single night, a sharp increase from the year before. Of them, 2,489 were sheltered, while 1,136 were completely unsheltered and exposed to the weather. That makes 2 straight years of increases, 6.8% in 2024, followed by 7.5% rise in 2025. Families with children, LGBTQ plus youth, black residents, and veterans are being hit the hardest, with black individuals heavily overrepresented compared with their share of the local population.
The majority of our public funds go towards violence.
Here is the harsh reality on the street enforcement teams are conducting 5 to 6 sweeps a day, sometimes more, tearing down tents, tarps, shopping carts, and the few belongings people need to survive. They return to the same places again and again, wooded areas under bridges, forgotten trails. Texas Senate Bill 241 supports it all, making sleeping outside an offense with fines up to $500 money most people out here could not pull together in a month. Add industrial-level thermal drones flying overhead, able to detect a person's heat signature through dense tree cover or beneath huge concrete overpasses, and the pressure becomes non-stop. At the same time, tension inside these encampments is reaching a breaking point, when hundreds of vulnerable people are pushed into unmanaged areas with scarce resources. Conflict is almost guaranteed. Bring serious substance abuse into that environment, and the risk of instability rises fast. So the city's response intensifies, barriers are installed, entry points are shut off, and surveillance expands. It may look like order, but in practice, it becomes containment. And within 24 to 48 hours after a sweep, people are forced to move again, often into more hidden and more dangerous areas. Meanwhile, the yearly 2026 pit count had already been adjusted in January because of freezing weather, with emergency overflow shelters opening at locations such as Bode Community Center and communities under the bridge. A single hotel closure alone sent 25 to 30 more families onto the street overnight. These are not abstract patterns. They are real people moving through a system that can barely keep up. Here is the harsh reality at the center of the crisis on San Antonio's streets right now. Fentanyl and meth are not side problems. They are dominating blocks and turning daily survival into a dangerous struggle. Addiction moves faster and cuts deeper than many people admit. When the system breaks down, these drugs fill the gap, stripping people of any shot at steady work relationships or a stable place to live. People using on the street keep chasing the next dose while their bodies wear down from overdoses, infections, and total exhaustion. Documentaries like When the System Fails Addiction rules the streets show it plainly. Treatment beds are limited, mental health care falls behind, and the drugs keep taking control. At the same time, soaring housing costs are shutting out working families. Rents and home prices have climbed much faster than wages, leaving thousands one missed paycheck or hotel closure away from tents. One recent closure pushed 25 to 30 families into housing insecurity overnight. The minimum wage remains $7.25 an hour, while even a basic 2-bedroom apartment requires about 3 times that income to stay afloat. For the lowest income households, the affordable housing shortage is about 16,400 units, meaning the numbers simply do not work for too many people getting by. On top of that, extreme weather turns an already harsh life into a deadly one. January cold snaps force extra emergency shelters to open, but many people still remain exposed. By summer, triple-digit temperatures bring heat stroke risks that can kill with little warning. Those conditions make everything worse. Untreated medical issues, disabilities, and past evictions make it harder to get back indoors. Here's the controversial part fueling a real debate. Strict enforcement and fast sweeps may feel necessary for public safety, but when they happen before enough treatment beds or permanent housing exist, they often just move the crisis around and increase the human cost. The streets do not care about politics. They punish vulnerability immediately. Until the city expands, addiction recovery, and affordable housing at the same pace as the crackdowns, the survival equation stays stacked against people living outside. The numbers keep rising because the core forces, drugs money, and dangerous weather are not being fixed fast enough. San Antonio's social safety net is not merely falling short, it is being carefully taken apart. We are watching a planned pullback of basic support as Opportunity Home San Antonio begins phasing out 6,000 public housing units, effectively erasing one of the city's last safety nets. While city council members talk about urban revitalization, thousands of low-income residents are seeing their final protection from homelessness cleared away in favor of luxury-level tax incentives. As a result, the working homeless population has reached a breaking point, pushing families to turn the cramped space of a sedan into a moving survival shelter just to stay unnoticed. Meanwhile, the strain on places like Haven for Hope has reached a severe breaking point, with waitlists feeling less like intake lines and more like endless sentences. This is not just a housing shortage. It is a desperate game of musical chairs where the music has already stopped. If you still believe homelessness is only about addiction, you have not seen a professional in a sharp 9-to-5 outfit getting ready for a board meeting at a gas station sink. Even with advocates like Terry Castillo raising warnings, the force of gentrification keeps placing real estate profits ahead of human shelter. Conflicts inside Haven for Hope have escalated quickly. Viral videos show men being attacked with canes while lying in the sleeping area as security is stretched thin, responding to medical emergencies elsewhere.
New details also this morning in a shooting at Haven for Hope that sent 3 people to the hospital, including 2 security guards. Around 10 p.m. last night, police say a man attacked a security guard after banging on the building's intake door. During the fight, the suspect tried to reach for the guard's gun, which eventually went off and hit the guard in the foot. Now, police say a second security officer arrived and shot the suspect 3 times, but he was also hit by a bullet in their leg. All are expected to recover.
The shelter is packed past its limits, leading to hard decisions like ending floor sleeping and creating the Young at Heart program just to respond to the growing number of older adults now stranded outside. Meanwhile, conditions in the encampments are even harsher. A violent attack beneath the West Commerce Street Bridge ended with a man picking up a pickaxe to defend himself, leading the city to put up fencing and limit camping near the county jail. These moments reveal the raw physical reality of life outside: constant fear, lack of sleep, untreated wounds, and no room for mistakes when you are exposed around the clock. Beyond that, families with children are still being pushed into cars or tents after low-cost hotels close, while random attacks on people sleeping outside continue to rise. In the end, the math is harsh and obvious. You cannot remove 6,000 beds in the middle of a housing crisis and expect anything other than more urban camping. Some insiders say this is not just a bureaucratic mistake, but a deliberate clearing of the downtown core, basically pushing poor people out to balance the city's books. We have reached a point where the city treats poverty like a liability to be erased instead of a crisis to address. It is large-scale abandonment of vulnerable people, repackaged as progress. Here is the blunt reality of what is actually being used to confront the crisis on San Antonio's harsh streets in early 2026. While sweeps and drones dominate the headlines, several focused solutions are quietly getting some people off the pavement and giving them a real chance to survive. The city and its partners are leaning heavily into permanent supportive housing. The clearest example right now is Town Twin Village, a practical campus designed for chronically homeless seniors and veterans. It combines small tiny homes, RV units, and efficiency apartments, each roughly 400 to 500 square feet, with ADA bathrooms, kitchenettes, and front porches. More than 40 tiny homes are already open, with plans for over 200 total units supported by on-site medical, dental, and daily services. For people who have spent years facing extreme heat, freezing nights, and constant danger, these small but stable homes offer immediate physical relief, a locked door, an actual bed, and steady care that helps reduce ER visits and street-related injuries. Beyond that, turning existing hotels into shelter and housing is producing quick, practical results. These fast conversion projects bring people indoors immediately, without waiting years for new construction. A real roof and four walls are far better than sleeping under bridges or in tents, and they give caseworkers a stable place to address addiction, job training, and long-term housing plans. It is not perfect, but it moves faster than most government solutions. At the same time, grassroots pressure is growing through community organizing and advocacy efforts such as the No Kings movement. Local organizations and ordinary residents are showing up pushing officials for quicker housing, better access to treatment, and more balanced policies. Their work keeps attention on the human cost and forces serious conversations about pairing enforcement with real support. Here's the controversial view that splits the room. These efforts show that people can move from survival mode to stability when the focus shifts to housing first models instead of endless sweeps. Still, critics say tiny home villages and hotel conversions are only temporary fixes if addiction treatment and mental health services do not expand just as quickly. The streets are unforgiving. They respond to results, not intentions. If San Antonio expands these tested approaches alongside its new homeless services department and works toward 1,000 permanent supportive units, the odds of survival improve quickly. Otherwise, the same brutal equation of drugs, weather, and violence will keep winning. The pavement does not wait for perfect plans. It punishes delay night after night. Here is the bottom line truth that stands out most after looking closely at San Antonio's streets in early 2026. Homelessness is no longer simply about laziness or poor choices. It is the direct outcome of soaring housing costs, aggressive enforcement, and a city expanding too quickly without enough protection for its most vulnerable residents. More than 3,625 people were counted in the latest snapshot, with over 1,100 still sleeping outside, exposed to extreme heat-freezing nights and constant danger. The numbers are clear, and the streets keep taking their toll every day. What comes next will shape the city's future. Will San Antonio expand proven solutions like Town Twin Village with its compact tiny homes and supportive units that give seniors and veterans a locked door, real beds and on-site care, or will it keep relying more heavily on thermal drones and fast sweeps that only push people out of view? Hotel conversions show that families can be brought indoors quickly, while grassroots efforts like the No Kings movement show that community pressure can demand real accountability. These solutions provide immediate physical relief, fewer wound infections, better access to treatment, and a real chance to recover before the next extreme weather event hits. Still, here is the blunt, controversial reality that fuels heated arguments on both sides. Tough on crime tactics and high-tech enforcement may feel effective for restoring order, but when they move faster than housing and addiction recovery, they often just shift people around while the death toll quietly rises. A more humane housing-first approach is not soft. It is hard, practical survival math. It works when tiny home villages and converted shelters are paired with expanded treatment and permanent supportive housing. Without that, the same deadly cycle of fentanyl, eviction, and exposure keeps winning. So the major question remains: can San Antonio become a national example by pairing smart enforcement with bold, measurable housing solutions? Or will it become a warning about how good intentions and partial fixes collapse when the streets require faster, stronger action? The next PIT count and budget choices will reveal the answer. One thing is clear: the pavement does not bargain, does not excuse delays, and does not care about politics. Real change means meeting the harsh reality outside with solutions that actually bring people indoors before it is too late. Time is running out, and every night on these streets matters. The real test is not only whether the city builds more units, it is whether leaders have the courage to treat this like the life or death survival crisis it truly is. If they continue putting sweeps ahead of expanded treatment beds and affordable housing, the unsheltered population will keep rising, and so will the human cost. But when tiny homes, hotel conversions, and strong community voices like No Kings receive real funding and fast-track support, people can stabilize quickly. People stop dying from preventable exposure and untreated addiction. San Antonio still has the tools and resources to change course, but only if it stops pushing the problem into the future and starts responding to the streets with the same urgency people living there face every night. The choice is obvious, and the pavement is already keeping score.